My destiny is to cross the Black Seas and fight the tyranny of inferiority, fighting robot armies. The thought is alarming.
Alright, it's been quite some time, and while I can't say that we're back per se, I can at least say that for now we're here. So let's get up to date, shall we? First of all, Nerdcore releases that you simply need. You may think that your life is complete, but without the following, you're sadly mistaken. www.rhymetorrents.com Disc 5 is out. Spread the word and make it known. Another assortment in which one can wet one's toes and find out just who you want to send money to in order to support. No review or anything like that though, but personally I'm listening to 1 through 4 every day at work nowadays, so I'm pretty sure 5 doesn't break the tradition of decent hip-hop interspersed with YT Cracker, Myth, Beefy, and Ultraklystron level greatness. Speaking of Ultraklystron, he's done another non-nerdcore drum and bass release in Haven. If you're familiar with his work, then the words "why the hell aren't you signed" immediately come to mind. Honestly, I was listening to tracks from his Are We There Yet before I even heard his nerdcore hip-hop. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. From the Lone Star State, Oddioblender has released one of his own as well, Coupla, The Coming of the Next Nerd World Dynasty, a CD that kicks off with the track sampling Final Fantasy. No number, I mean the first Final Fantasy, NES style. Very nice, also recommend it.
Well, basically, I've got this new album coming out, Gust of Young is Dead. It's my new electronic album. I was writing it basically during the same time as Kubla Khan. Kubla Khan, I've always tried to make departures with my music and try a lot of new things, and I'd never done straight hip-hop before, so Kubla Khan was my first experimentation with that. I'm also developing, or I've finished 2 ambient albums that I'm going to be releasing sometime soon. One's called Head Like a Wasteland under my Zeo Magus moniker. It's very much horror film soundtrack music, and basically I also have an album called Catharsis, which basically consists of me playing keyboard live for 40 minutes that I wrote for a friend. It's called Catharsis because it's supposed to be healing music. It was supposed to be music that would make her feel happy. And also right now I've got a band I'm participating in called the Chud Baldwin Experience, dedicated to ruining the life of the very talented Mr. Daniel Baldwin. We have a MySpace, the Chud Baldwin Experience, and we got a few tracks up, and I think that's going to be pretty good. We're hoping to do some live shows, and it's definitely a nerdcore project, so I think those who listen to nerdcore will really appreciate what we're trying to do. Kubla Khan and Gust of Young is Dead are 2 completely different albums. Kubla Khan was a very fun album. It was basically, I was trying to give my music a voice, whereas on Gust of Young is Dead, the content's a lot more serious, a lot more emotional. But I think I still managed to have fun with Gust of Young is Dead, and there are still some lyrical tracks on Gust of Young is Dead, so I think people who like Kubla Khan might be a little surprised by what's on Gust of Young is Dead, but I think it's worth a look. Well, Kubla Khan, a lot of nerdcore artists really liked it. It's funny because I've made a lot of new fans since Kubla Khan. I think a lot more people are listening to it than I've been aware of. I think High C from Rhyme Torrents was telling me one month there were over 7,000 download requests from the Audioblender directory alone, so I think that alone says something. It's funny because I'm working at GameStop now. That's my day job whenever I'm not writing music or going to school. But like this guy just got hired at GameStop and he brings his iPod over to me and he's like, "Hey dude, I just realized you're Audioblender." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Audioblender." And he's like, "Yeah, I've got your whole album on my iPod." Turns out he's got Kubla Khan jamming in his iPod right now. So I think a lot of people are listening to it. I'm not sure how soon it will be for a follow-up to Kubla Khan. I'd really like to put some time into a follow-up. But I think it's something I'll be keeping up. I think I'll be doing that in electronic music intermittently. So I'd say there's a very good chance you'll probably see more of this, just probably not anytime soon. Well, I've been tapped by a lot of artists recently. Let's see, David Abrams and Frankie Castle of Nerdcore MCs have been tapping me quite a bit. MC Rection, Betty Rebel. I've been working with MC Router a lot lately from Late Geek Beat. and also Rye, and I believe Enerbrat and Professor E uses a few of my beats too. Pinky Fries, I gave some beats to recently, and Project Zero as well. And I'm trying to think whether I did something with Signed Long Int or not, but yeah, I'd say at least 8 or 9 different artists. I'm real excited to work with all of them, really. I like collaborating with people because when you've worked for yourself for such a long time, it's nice to have someone else there to put creative input. Takes a lot of stress off your shoulders, and it's nice to see how your style meshes with someone else. And my style seems to mesh really well because my collaborations, most of the collaborative work I've done, I'm pretty proud of. I haven't been able to work with anyone one-on-one, but I did work with David Abrams and Rai on a Katamari Damacy remix beat where I used the Sasasan Katamari sound from the beginning. You know, the na 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 na. So I used that and made a beat out of that, and they're working on a rap about Katamari Damacy over that, and that's probably going to be really cool. The beats are more like the jungle stuff I used to do in my early days, but and MC Router has been using a lot of the work from 8-Bit Breakcore Action. She plans to throw some stuff over that. Of course, she and T-Bot have been real busy. They have other stuff to do, so I imagine I'll hear something very good out of them sometime in the future, but of course, they're strapped for time, and they've been busy lately with live shows, but I'm really excited to work with MC Router. She's pretty skilled. I think she's underrated. I'd really like to work with someone like Whitey Cracker or High C, just because, you know, I'd like to work with a bigger name to see what they have to say about my music. No offense to the little guys, because the little guys make up the underground scene, and I think they, for the most part, are the ones who are really driving my music, because most of the fans of my music are people just like me, musicians who are really trying to get a break in the underground. I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately. I used to consider myself IDM. I used to consider myself electronic. I don't really think I fall into IDM. IDM's a really blanket term for a lot of artists who don't really fit in any particular genre of electronic music. And I don't think that term really defines me, because I wouldn't say my music's necessarily intelligent. I mean, it's not something you hear every day, but I don't think it's something that's going to end up being studied in about 50 years. On top of that, I was calling myself Nerdcore. It's funny, when I first started calling myself Nerdcore, I didn't even know what the word meant. I was out of the loop. I was on phone modems, so I wasn't on the internet so often. Basically, I think I can't really put a word to describe my music right now. I mean, I've called myself Nerdcore, but Nerdcore, a lot of Nerdcore is very optimistic, very fun. But my music's not always fun, and it's certainly not always optimistic. But IDM and Nerdcore are 2 words I've just used to describe my music, but I'm not sure if they really fit anymore. My music continues to develop, but who knows? Maybe they'll have to make up a word to describe mine. Well, this is something I've actually started recently. I've had my eye on this katana up at there's a sword shop, actually. There's a blade shop right by where I live called House of Blades, and it's got nothing but swords. I mean, katanas, scimitars, replicas from movies. The only sword I own right now is an Excalibur replica. I found it in an antique mall for like $50 with a wood mount. It looked beautiful. That's the sword you see in all my pics on MySpace, with the exception of the one with the katana. But I'd like to purchase some katanas. That's my thing as a video game fan. I think 1 out of every 5 anime fans owns a katana or some replica of one. So that's something I'd like to get a hold of. But, you know, swords, there's a romance behind swords. You know, people, you know, you see guns in games nowadays, but, you know, the swords, you think knights, you think samurais, you think ninjas. There's a particular romance of it. And, you know, I need to grow my collection a little bit, but swords are expensive. So hopefully if I can ever earn any money off anything, maybe I'll be able to buy a few more. Thanks for the interview, Gabe.
November 18th, we'll see another Nerdcore show, this one in Florida, put together by Funky49. This is a follow-up to last month's show. That link will take you to the official bootleg footage of the show. I think it bears restating that following the first official all-Nerdcore show ever on August 28th of this year, Nerdcore shows are starting in earnest, although pretty much only in Florida, and only due to the efforts of Funky49. So if you can, I highly recommend that you either go out and support it in person, or visit him on MySpace and spam the living hell out of him to put up another bootleg after this show. School the Indie Rockers, Optimus Rhyme's second full-length release, is simply exceptional. If you've seen them at PAX, then you're probably familiar with a number of their songs. They've been working on some of them live for the past year or two on stage, and they're as near perfection as possible. The audio beats await at Optimus' site. The CD is exceptional, and it lacks the weird track listing problems that the first one had, but I have to say that I still think they're better live. And incidentally, for those who are familiar with the Nerdcore for Life documentary, even as we speak, we're being filmed for it.